Peter, can you hear us?
Yeah, I am in my mind.
Great. So I'm recording this because it will go on Zoom, Don. We're gonna do a little promotion on this and maybe make you and Peter famous.
Awesome. Yes.
I'll put it on YouTube. So I'll do an intro and all that right now. So hey, this is Brent Conley with eXp Realty in Phoenix and in Southern California. I'm hosting this training event for probate with our speaker, Don Mowery, with the Don Mowery Group with eXp Realty in Rancho Cucamonga, and works the Inland Empire. It's been a licensed appraiser and doing probate ever since houses were constructed. So he's that old. And we've got Peter Park here, and Peter's in LA and is one of our business associates through eXp Realty, and was a broker owner for I think 25 or 30 years or something like that. Also, and speaks a couple different languages. And does commercial real estate and commercial financing as a wealth of knowledge also. So wanted to get started here and give Don the floor and have him start talking about probate and how to get started and go from there.
Sorry about that. I have an alarm set for our meeting. I put it on snooze. So let me turn this alarm off real quick. Okay, yeah, awesome. So yeah, I've been working in the probate living trust world and working both with attorneys and clients, doing both appraisals and real estate. And I believe that our conversation, we're going to talk a little bit, number one, about how to get into probate, and number two, a little bit about the probate real estate transaction. And so the way I got into the probate deals, obviously I've been doing appraisals and real estate appraisals, and they would call me and say, hey, I need an appraisal for the date of death, or I need an appraisal for the estate. We're thinking about selling the home. And I started developing relationships with attorneys and being able to talk to them, and then letting them know we provided more services than just appraisals, that we do real estate. And so I helped to leverage those appraisal relationships into probate listings. And when I first started doing probates, I found out that there's a big difference between doing probate transactions and regular traditional real estate sales. And the number one thing to know is that there's certain guidelines and timeframes that are very important. And maybe I can share my screen here.
Sure, let me give you access to that.
Let me see if I can find it. Let's see here. I was hoping to, let's see if I have it here.
Okay, you should have access to share your screen. Now, so since you started, there were inbound calls to you. So for a real estate agent out there, or Peter wants to start specializing in probate in Los Angeles, so him doing outbound marketing, would that work, like mailers, or do you need to call them and try to get an opportunity doing a CMA or / BPO or something like that to offer that service?
So, you know, what happens when a probate's filed, it's a public record. And everybody, the investors and all that real estate, are going to start calling and hitting that person up. But really, a lot of times the attorney is going to be the trusted advisor, and that attorney's referral is worth gold.
Okay.
So there is a probate certification, which I have to, through the California Association of Realtors.
Okay.
Stuff that you can take online and get certified. I highly recommend doing that, number one. And number two, it's going to give you a better understanding of the actual timeline for that.
Okay.
So once you have that probate and you understand the knowledge, then you can start marketing to attorneys. There's other companies called All the Leads. That's a lead system. And they also will sell you a system that allows you to create, they'll tell you when that probate comes, and you can start mailing those people directly, and it comes with phone numbers and calling them. The challenge I found out, and I'm not saying you're competing a lot of times with multiple agents, as like anything, and you're competing with a lot of investors who are coming up offering them cash. So many times before that probate is even processed, they've already made a contact with me to become that trusted agent. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's number one, is that, to get the business, I recommend getting the certification. Number two is then market directly to those probate attorneys.
So yeah, I did something similar in the REO business, and I know both of you did a lot of REO also. So like I had zero experience in the beginning, and then I started doing valuations or BPOs at that point for a lot of different banks, asset management companies and stuff. And then I started going to meet people in person. And it was when I started meeting them in person is when I got the most traction. So I'm a big fan of going to meet people in person, so they kind of get to see you and hear your voice and say, hey, this is a real person, not just an email being blasted out to me. So I think that combined with marketing, combined with offering a service is probably the right direction. I've spoke to a few other agents in the probate world that's how they go about marketing to attorneys.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's similar to like anything. It's a relationship business. A lot of times when agents are going after that, they're just trying to knock on the people's doors for the home of the probate. Obviously, they're probably not living there; they might be out of state. And number two, we don't know if it's tenant occupied. All the leads is one way to do that as well. I'm looking for my timeline that I have. Let's see here if I have it. But the other thing to understand too is a lot of agents, and even when they write, don't understand that there's a specific probate form.
Okay.
Right. And if you go into the actual documents, there's a form and you can only list a probate home for 90 days. It's only a 90-day listing. And so a lot of agents get in there and they get a probate transaction. They use the wrong form. The client, either the executor or the administrator of the probate doesn't even have authority to sign yet, and they go and get a listing agreement signed, and they don't have an authority to enter into the listing agreement yet.
Okay.
Because they don't have what's called their letters. What's called the letters. And I was going to show my timeline. Hey, Mackenzie, can you reach out to Kevin and have him send me email me the probate process time guideline real quick? I can't find it. Have him sent to me. So let me share my screen. And here, and I'll show you. So in the CAR forms, when you go into California real estate, for those people in California, and then we'll just create a new transaction. We'll just do a new listing. We'll just do a probate example. We'll just call it probate.
Okay.
Call it probate, right? And residential, we'll just create one here. And if you go into all the forms, you'll see there's actually a listing one for probate specifically. So we'll just go to let's see here. So you'll see the probate listing. Actually, it's the probate listing addendum. So you create a regular transaction. You used to have a specific probate form. So now you go into and create your listing. So it'd be a residential listing agreement.
Yep.
Right. Where is my residential listing agreement for PA? Sure. I'm on my game this morning. So if you do exclusive one, they used to have a specific form. And now you're going to add in your probate addendum. And that'll tell you in the probate addendum what you can and can't do. So in here, you're going to add your probate addendum. So go all the forms, probate, and here it is right here, the listing, probate advisory, and then also the probate addendum. So you'll notice in here that you'll see that's an addendum to the residential listing agreement, the address. You also see what the difference between a conservatorship, a guardianship, or receivership. Right, so you could have somebody who's under a conservatorship, right? That's part of the probate process. That means someone's incapacitated. Somebody maybe has Alzheimer's or has a mental incapacity, and they can't, but they're still living, right? So that goes to the probate process. Or guardianship, right? Where a guardianship, maybe, someone's underage. Or, a receivership, when an attorney's handling it for them, it can be in a receivership, right? Receiver.
Yeah.
And it says that the listing period shall be shorter of 90 days or the length given in a listing agreement, right? And then there's a limited authority and full authority. Full authority means that you don't need court approval of the sale, right? If you have a full authority and you find that in the letters, that means that they can sign and enter your listing agreement and sign the property, right?
Okay.
If it's a limited authority, it's going to need to be approved by the court before you close the transaction.
Okay.
Right. And then
Yeah.
it goes in here. So it has it has obviously this dispute, and then is paragraph is deleted in its entirety. And then also that, the probate advisory fee. Okay.
Right.
So they usually can't enter into this until they have their, what's called their letters. And let me kind of give you a little bit of a timeline.
Okay, so you're working with the attorney, they refer you, whatever, you're getting this listing agreement signed by the seller. The attorney doesn't have to sign the listing agreement, or do they?
No.
Okay.
No. Now the attorney doesn't, once they have their letters, and I'll show this to you, the process right here, you can kind of see my timeline. So this is my timeline. So when they start, they file the petition for the probate. Right? Usually that they can do that individually, or the attorney does that, depending if they have an attorney. Right? They have to do a notice of first court hearing, date published in the newspaper. And then it takes about 5 to 6 weeks for that to happen. And then what happens is you can then, what's called letters are issued by the court. It's usually about 120 days total.
Okay.
And they get what's called they get letters issued by the court and orders for the probate. And then they also, what have they do is they have to get a bond. So they have to be bonded by a bonding company. So the letters get issued, they get a bond. And once they have that bond, then they say, okay, the client's ready to sell the house now.
So who's getting the bond?
Normally it's the person who's the executor or the administrator of the estate, right?
Right.
And the difference is one, there could be somebody who dies with a will or somebody who dies without a will.
Yeah.
So one's intestate, one's testate, right?
Correct.
And then what happens is that person has to be bonded. They want to make sure that administrator or executor doesn't run off with the money and leave the heirs high and dry. So they have to have a bond. They actually check the person's credit and their background or whatever. They bond them and say, okay, this one person will bond them, ensure them that they are going to be a fiduciary.
Okay.
Right? They're going to act in their fiduciary capacity. And a lot of times, in my opinion, I watch these probate sales and I look at what the agent double ends them, right? Which is not, as a double ending a probate listing really is frowned upon by the courts. It's really not. They want to make sure that you get adequate exposure time, you got the maximum amount of property, and you acted as a fiduciary.
So let's ask, so with that draws a question in my mind. So there's a lot of investors going after probate deals, and they're going after the agents that work probate. So there's a length of time that property has to be exposed via the MLS on the market, so to speak, in order for them to accept a contract on it, correct?
No, that's not correct.
No? Oh, okay.
No, they can literally, I've seen probate deals like sold in 1 day, sold in 0 days, and I see the listing agent representing the buyer. And I see this value, I'm doing an appraisal, and I look at this value, and I'm like, man, this thing sold way under value. But I think what happens is the agent didn't act as a fiduciary and didn't allow reasonable market exposure time and double ended the property.
Okay, so they're double ending it or whatever, didn't fully expose it. They're just taking the first deal or whatever, which happens a lot in regular real estate. So,
Right,
I mean,
so
there's no difference.
I have a listing right now. It's a probate right now. We're getting ready to get the market. There's an investor who's been hitting up the client, wants to buy the property about $100,000 to $150,000 less than what I'm listing.
Yeah.
And my client's calling and said, hey, this guy wants to write a cash offer. He keeps calling me. He's telling the client that even though I have a signed listing agreement with them, that there's still time that he can get out of the listing agreement and sell it to him. Which, is a and so I haven't called him up yet, but I want to call him out and say, hey guys, have you ever heard of interference with prospective economic advantage? You have to breach a contract, you give me 3 times in damages.
Yep.
So anyhow, so once you have these letters issued and it's bonded, you can then they can sign the listing agreement. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yep.
And you have 90-day listing agreement. But if once you get a real estate transaction, again, you have to, and a lot of agents don't do this, is that once you have an offer and the offer is accepted, you have to notify the attorney and send the attorney the information, because they have to do what's called a notice of proposed action.
Okay.
Right? So they have to do a notice of proposed action. And normally it says here it's 15 days. I typically allow a little bit more with COVID. I would normally say, 20 to 30 days.
Okay, and that's if it needs court approval, correct?
No, doesn't make a difference.
Oh, it doesn't make a difference.
If you
Okay.
do a sell and you have full authority, you still need to, they still need to do a notice of proposed action that we're selling the house.
Okay.
Okay. And then of course, here's the information. If it has full authority, sign the listing agreement, probate purchase agreement, right? Open escrow, notice of proposed action, right? Open the bank account, because they have to have a bank account. So that particular person, they don't want to commingle the money. So they have to have the letters, they have to have a TIN, a number, like a TIN number, like a,
Yep.
not like a social security number. It's like a social security number for the bank,
For the estate.
IRS, right? For the estate. And then they draw the loan docs to close escrow.
Okay.
And then obviously if it's a limited authority, right, the selling price has to be 90% of the probate referee's appraised value. There has to be a 10% customary court deposit, so it has to be 10%. It has to be published in the newspaper. Then you accept the offer, right? You have to report the sale petition for the order, right? Notice of the buyer beneficiaries, interested parties, a court hearing, and there's an overbidding process. Someone can come into court and overbid on that property.
Huh.
So there's a lot more information. And Mackenzie, do you have that probate one we just got? The signed letters? The one I just got? Do you have the copy of that letter we just sent over? I'll show you one where it's the form. And then it goes up. The whole process, the probate. Now the real estate transaction, would take normally, when you get your letters about 120 days, and then your transaction might take 30 days.
Okay.
Right? From this process.
Right.
But what happens is a lot of times I'm contacted at the beginning and I form this relationship at the beginning up here. So they already know me. Yeah. So I gotta cover the name on this one, but this is an order for, and I have to show my screen back. And I'll show you what an order actually looks like, because I have one right here. But anyhow, I get contacted a lot up here, and I'm working with the client at that time to help them establish the value of the home. Maybe the home has some disrepairs that we can address, and we're working and forging this relationship up here in this beginning process. And so when they get their letters, they say, okay, you're ready to go.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So let me show you an actual, let me unshare the screen. And let me, so here's one.
So the bank always gets, or not the bank, I'm sorry, my brain's going back to bank business, but so the court, they're going to get an independent appraisal. So the lawyers, the attorneys, they're going to order one also, right?
Okay, so in a probate transaction, there's a referee, right? The referee, the referee is someone who's going to go do an appraisal on the assets.
Okay.
And that might be the house, it might be jewelry, it might be art, whatever assets is listed in that, the probate referee goes and values that. The probate referee doesn't go in the house. They drive by it, they give like one-liner comps and say, here's my value of the home. Most of the time they're relatively lower than what I see that the value is.
Okay.
However, if the home is in significant disrepair, right? At that point in time, I have to say, well, yeah, here's the road, but here's all the repairs. Here's all the construction repairs. The probate referee didn't go in the house.
Right.
Right. So we don't do a formal appraisal typically on that. If there's a living trust, right? The time they really are doing this, when there's like a lot of times like a living trust, and they want to set the basis for the new basis, right? So let's say mom and dad bought the home for $60,000 in 1980.
Yeah.
Right? And now that house is worth $1.7 million at the time of death. And so when we do the appraisal at 1.7, that's such, and at 1.7 when they inherited the property, then what happens if they go to sell it in the future and the value is $2 million, they're only going to pay the difference on the difference between the 1.7, the inheritance value, and the value that they sell. That's their new basis.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Yep.
So what happens is a lot of times they're contacting me to do the appraisals as of the date of death.
Okay.
So they'll call me and say, hey, my father, mother, whoever passed away, and we need it. My accountant says we need to file a tax return and we need an appraisal as of March, 2021, March, whatever date it's in 2021.
Okay. So is that something where you can offer, like I'm thinking as an agent now, and you can offer that to the and I forgot the word, so help me, the person that's inheriting the property.
Oh, okay. The executive administrator.
The executive administrator. You can offer the date of death valuation, so to speak, not an appraisal because you're not an appraiser as an agent, but you can offer that to try to get your foot in the door in order to try to build a relationship and possibly lean on them to get the listing.
No, they would really want the IRS and they want an actual appraisal.
They want an actual appraisal. Okay. All right. So
Yeah,
real estate agent.
And let's just say, so when we're talking, when you were talking about probates, we're talking about administrators and executors. And when we're talking about living trust, we're usually talking about successor trustees.
Okay.
So one's got one, so we have a successor trustee. So here's a court order. I'm gonna put it up there, I gotta hide the name. I'm gonna fold it over.
We probably won't be able to see it because you got your camera screen on.
Can you see that? Or is it shared? Can you see that yet?
No.
No, can't see that. Is my thing shared still? You can see me, right?
I can see you, but you have your computer screen on. You got a nice office.
Okay.
Are you at your office, your desk? You got a nice desk, dude. I've been there. So show your office.
I don't know how to turn that thing off. My marketing people do all these fancy things for me, and then I'm like, I don't know how to operate things. So this is the letter. It's called the letters of an administration with annexed, and it just says that this particular person, the last will and decedent named the having been proved, right? So they had a will, is named the administrator, right? And it says in here that this particular person has full authority.
Okay.
When I look at the box, it just says they have full authority. That means that they can sign the listing agreement and they can execute the documents, and I don't have to really go back into court to get this because they have full authority. I do have to do a notice, not me, but the attorney has to do a notice of proposed action.
Okay. All right. So going back to I'm doing this video so we can help real estate agents get more listings, right? So and I'm putting my real estate agent hat on and saying, okay, if they have full authority in that box on that letter, then that's the person that you can prospect. And so would it be a good idea for a real estate agent in their marketplace, wherever they're at, and say, hey, I want to partner with a local appraiser that's just an appraiser that's not doing real estate as well, and say, hey, can we give them a discounted appraisal to try to get them through the door or something? Like, what kind of an advantage on a marketing side?
If you connected with some local appraisers who are getting a lot of probate and trust work, you could forge that relationship. The challenge the appraiser would have is that they have a confidentiality rule. And they're not supposed to disclose to their client.
But what if the agent introduces?
If the agent makes the relationship and says, hey, you need a valuation and connect the appraiser, then they're going to be in the know. So yeah, if you did it that way,
yeah,
the agent is being, and it happens to a lot. I do get a lot of referrals from from agents whose client needs an appraisal for this purpose. And obviously I respect that relationship with them, and I don't go after the listing. I just
right,
because it'd be stupid, because then I'm going to lose that referral and that credibility with that agent.
Right. Oh, I get that. Okay, so that's another way to prospect to try to get probate listings.
Yeah. So, but number one, if you don't really understand the process, one of the things is if you don't understand the process and you don't understand the contracts, then, that's why I'm saying get familiar with it before you go out there and start prospecting.
Right.
Don't go after the business until you understand the business.
Right. So take the training class, get certified, California Association of Realtors, understand the forms, write some dummy contracts, 5 or 6 times so you fully understand them. Look up the terminology in the dictionary so you understand that piece of it. And because the legal language is completely different than what we're normally accustomed to. And then just try to build those relationships to get the referral business. And then on the marketing side, I think your reputation in the real estate business, of your success track record in selling real estate, would probably help you as well as presentation materials. So what do you have any questions, Peter? You've been awfully quiet over there. You can interrupt me anytime.
No. You're doing such a good job.
So the other thing I'd recommend too, I know we got a few minutes left, but a lot of agents times they'll write offers on my probate listings and they use the wrong form, or they don't use, and I'll share my screen again, or they don't understand. So let me just share with you 2 things to help, the people watching this video understand. So here you can see my screen. This is the purchase agreement probate addendum. So when you do a transaction, you can do one of other 2 ways. Let me see if they have it here. There's a probate purchase agreement, right? That I recommend either using that one, or I recommend if you do a regular RPA, you need to make sure you put the purchase agreement probate format.
Okay.
What's happening is a lot of times agents would write offers on the RPA and then try to go do an addendum and screw it all up. So the California Association of Realtors came out and said, hey, we need to create a probate addendum form. So you can either do it on the purchase agreement for a probate, right? There's one here. Let me see if I can jump it in. I don't know if they'll let me have both in here. There's a probate listing addendum, but there's also a probate purchase and joint instructions. And then if you're going to type it on that one, or as you can see my screen, you can do a regular RPA and do the addendum. So you can either use this form, which is, I recommend using this form. And this is the probate purchase agreement and joint escrow instructions. Or you can do a regular RPA and supplement it with the probate purchase addendum. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what happens is if you write an offer up and you don't either use this one or give me this, I got to go back now and counter you back.
Okay.
Now you're making my job as the listing agent more difficult.
Right.
Right. And it's showing your inexperience.
Yep.
If I have 5 offers on the property or 10 offers on the property, and I've got somebody who understands probate and they're giving me the right forms, and I got someone else who's giving it to me on this other stuff, they don't understand the process and they're competing offers, I feel more comfortable working with the agent that understands the process.
Absolutely. Yeah. Totally get that. Okay.
Yeah, I got a couple of questions. One short, one long one. The short one is, when we refer as a broker, when we refer a loan officer or somebody like that, or vendor, we need to give out 3 different names. So the probate attorneys, don't they need to refer 3 different broker names to the family?
So to answer your question, I think it goes yes on both ways. Number one, I think that the attorney, I just spoke with one yesterday, she gave out, I believe, 3 names and I was one of them, right? So that is true. So sometimes attorneys will give out 3 names, but also I think it goes on the other flip side. Sometimes I'll get people that contact me directly and then I refer them to a probate attorney. So there's something in the state of California that a lot of agents don't understand. It's called negligent referral. If you refer somebody out and they're negligent, that you could be, as the referrer, held liable.
It's crazy.
And a lot of agents don't understand negligent referral.
Yeah. Yep.
And so, it goes both ways. You could be referring out and you could be referred. So a lot of times it depends. They'll give 2 or 3 names and they interview me. Or sometimes if it's in different cases, you know, if it's in a family law case, the judge will appoint me directly. If the judge appoints me directly, well, then I don't have to worry about it.
Right. Okay.
Okay, and the long question would be the lead generation, right? Where do we, is there a list of probate attorneys that we can, maybe they have some association or something?
They do. You can go through the state of California Bar Associations, and they have attorneys that have the specialty or specialize in probate living trust, and you can reach out to those attorneys.
And they have mixers and stuff. I went to one a couple times in San Diego. I just got drugged to it with one of my agents, and actually the mixer was great. I made a bunch of contacts and stuff like that. It just wasn't my focus at the time. I was really there to support my agent, and but everybody was willing to talk and, you know, to build your network and your database. I thought that was a huge advantage, you know, to start trying to go to the bar association mixers.
Yeah, again, it's you have to find your niche.
Yep.
You have to find your world that you know, thrive in. And some agents say, hey, I want to go into family law and, you know, or into probate. It's, you need to understand it. You need to become an expert in it. It's just like being a doctor, right? You could be a general practitioner, or, you know, if you are a brain surgeon and that's all you do is brain surgery every day, and that's what you do. Real estate is the same thing, right? I specialize in a very niche business, and agents try to be everything to everyone all the time, and it's not usually a good message. It just doesn't work.
Well, and I think also, like, you use your advantages. Like, Peter, like, I know you speak several different languages. That's a huge advantage when communicating with other people, right? Yeah. And so using that and promoting that to the local attorneys, and because I'm pretty sure you still live in Koreatown in LA, and that's a huge advantage. I'd be prospecting those attorneys, and then, like,
definitely prospecting the attorneys that speak that language to their clients.
And then, like,
they need somebody who needs that. If you have your probate specialty designation and your language, you have an in, because they'll you know, they're going to know you and trust you.
Yeah.
And if you don't know the forms, and if you go in there and I see agents all the time, they're double ending these properties way below value. How do I trust you to do a good job on my client?
Right. Exactly. It's all about trust. That's huge.
Yeah. So I think the Brent probably feels the same way, but, you know, we have done thousands of BPOs, right?
Yeah.
And we have worked for, you know, Fannie, Freddie, and people like that. And you don't get into those contracts without being, you know, having that credibility. And the experience that comes from our business, I think is somewhat similar to probate. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm, you know, inclined to research more and learn about the probate business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I see that.
Both your questions there, Peter. Did you have another question? You had a long one, a short one.
Oh no, the long question was that lead generation. How do we befriend the attorneys and have them trust us?
Yeah. And what did you have, the short one, or did I answer that, Peter?
Yeah.
That one's going to the mixers, Peter. No, it's based on trust. You know, you got to do a good job. You got to prove that you're worthy of those referrals for sure. So, and all three of us have all done that in the REO business for sure. And Don's done it in multiple different areas. So,
if any of the agents out there have a client in the Inland Empire, Rancho Cucamonga, Upland area, or need an appraisal, feel free to reach out to me or have questions. And if you're looking for somebody out in the, what part of LA are you in? Koreatown? Said?
Yeah.
Koreatown,
close to Koreatown. Yes.
Which is just west of LA, downtown LA, kind of in that area. You know, Peter, there in Brent, of course, you're down there in Carlsbad, right?
Carlsbad, San Diego, and Phoenix.
Phoenix, that's right.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I got to run. Is there anything else? I got to go take care of something. Is there anything else I can do?
I think that's all that we need right now. Don, I appreciate you very much for doing this, and I'll send you a copy of it so you guys can use it for marketing as well.
Okay. So, awesome. Thank you for your time.
Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye.